Ray Liotta has sadly passed, and I wanted to try to tie this to Norm in some way. And granted, it's tangential, but there is a kind of connection in terms of the interviews they did and the topics they covered. I will just say I will try to review some of the underrated performances he did on Partially Examined Kubrick. So if you want to look at those, I will leave a link. And without further ado, here are some sadly final words from both Norm and Ray.
You had a very poor childhood. Do you bring that to your comedy? Do you bring that to based on a true story?
Yeah, in my book I talk about it because I was nothing. When you're really poor, you don't expect anything of yourself, and you're happy with any measure of success. And it's only as you get more successful that you start to envy, and you know what I mean. And especially in this town, I always think, because you look at people that have more money and success than you do, that maybe aren't as talented as you are, Larry. But you're comparing. You shouldn't be comparing. You should just be. You should just go. Well, if I was 20 years old, would I take where I am now? And then, of course, you would. I mean, I feel I would, at least. So,
Don't you feel successful?
Yes, but because I'm not a furnace of ambition or anything. Where I've met people like when I was at Saturday Night Live, I was just happy to be at Saturday Night Live. When I did my first Letterman, I was happy to do my first Letterman. I never had my one foot in and one foot out. I was never thinking of the next step. I never had a grand career arc. Yeah.
What brought you down? Gambling?
Well, some have said it's been the ruin of me, Larry.
The ruin?
But I don't.
What did you gamble on?
I gambled on sports. And I will tell you this. You should never bet football because the ball ain't round. I keep telling people this. And so the ball hits and then it does all kinds of crazy things and you don't know. You want to bet on a game with a round ball. Anyways, I quit. I don't know why I'm even saying this. But I did go broke twice. And I must say that it was a very cleansing feeling in a way.
Cleansing?
Yeah.
Well, when you went broke, you had to make money again, right?
Yeah.
Because you had to go broke twice.
Yeah, that's
Why did
true.
you go back to gambling after you made money, knowing that you went broke?
Well, it's
That's
like
insanity.
On a grander scale, though. How does Donald Trump lose $900 million? It's because he has the guts to make the gamble. You know what I mean? Now, most people, I think, if they got to $3 billion or $4 billion or whatever Mr. Trump is worth, would just sit on it. But he's willing to throw the dice. You know what I mean?
And then also take it off his income tax and not pay income tax when he makes one.
Yeah, but that's illegal. Well, Mr. Trump is a friend of yours.
Yes.
I think you would. I know him casually. I've never seen from the man in my meetings with him any trace of racism.
No.
Any trace of malice.
So what do you make of his campaign, which has traces of racism and traces of malice?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he's obviously playing some sort of character.
He's got a part here. The part is he's running for president.
Yes, exactly. And so I don't know whether to be afraid or not. You know what I mean? There have been in this country times when people like Huey Long or somebody like that came along that raised a little terror in people. But I think personally our democracy is bulletproof to any sort of any chance at fascism, and I don't think Donald Trump even is going that way. But if people are afraid of that, I think our democracy denies that.
Do you think he's demagogic? That's not a word, is it?
Demagogic? Yeah, that's a word. Well, I guess by dictionary definition he is, because he's, I think maybe the ruin of Donald Trump will be this addiction to playing the halls. You know what I mean? That maybe he doesn't want to be president of the United States as much as he wants to be the president of whatever room he's playing that night, which I can understand as a stand-up comedian, which maybe you can understand because you go and you speak.
Yeah.
And it's aphrodisiacal, to get in front of these people and have.
It's the biggest high of all.
It's amazing.
And they laugh. That's right.
Absolutely.
There's no bigger joy.
So
when he gets the applause.
Yeah.
That's enough.
I think that's what he loves. I don't know if he wants to be president. What I don't think he'll win. I think he will start a giant television network.
Yeah, him and Roger Ailes.
Yes, and Larry King, maybe.
The Trump Network.
The Trump Network.
And how about Norm Macdonald with comedy specials weekly?
I would be your apprentice on the Trump Network.
What's the biggest risk Norm has taken? We'll find out. And about the future of the last comic standing.
Oh, yeah.
The book is based on a true story. It's Norm Macdonald, a memoir. We'll be right back. We're back with Norm Macdonald. You're going to love this book. I can't wait to get it. Just breezing through it. It's based on a true story. It's a memoir. So it's a novel, but it's not a novel. It's an American Dostoevsky.
That's high praise, but that's what people have said.
You recently said of Trump, by the way, you've got to be able to apologize and you've got to be able to say you're wrong. You have to have some humility. Why doesn't he seem to have that?
I don't know.
I know him and I don't know.
I mean, maybe...
Did you try to take a picture with him and he snubbed you?
Well, it was a kind of a funny thing. I was on the Jimmy Fallon show, and I was watching it. You know, he was the first guest, and people, you know, were the next day saying that Jimmy was too easy. You know, as if Jimmy's Douglas Edwards or something. You know, he's just a guy. You know, just a kid that loves everybody. So he's not gonna. He may have lost his chance to, you know, moderate Meet the Press, but I don't think that was ever his goal. But yeah, so Donald came. I was only a couple minutes between when one guest leaves and the other comes in. So I was in the hall with him. He was with the Secret Service, and he knows me, you know. So I said, Donald, a picture, and he goes, I love this guy, you know. And he's talking to the Secret Service guys. He goes, I love this guy. I'll take a picture, just 1 minute. And he turned around, and then he walked to the elevator and got on it. So, you know, I did make a few comments about him, and I haven't spoken to him since then. And I always wonder, oh gosh, I hope he didn't read those comments and like his humility, you know, because I do think that humility is a huge important thing for a person to have, you know, maybe one of the most important.
Well, everybody will be humble sometime.
One day, absolutely.
You're not a big fan of Hillary's, are you?
Right. No, I don't like
Why
Hillary.
don't you like Hillary?
I don't like her in any way. Well, because I think she's the most corrupt person that we've ever had in the White House. I mean, there's so many terrible things that she's done that we forget. But there was one that, I don't know why this was swept under the rug, but, you know, she went into the IRS and looked at political enemies' tax returns.
Nixon did that.
Yeah, well, absolutely Nixon did that. Yeah, she's a
You
Nixonian
know
figure.
that Hillary did that?
Well, as much as I know anything. I mean, this was reported, and it was a thing for a very short time because the news cycles go so quickly. And maybe nowadays, Nixon, you know, Watergate would have just been a Friday night story that would have disappeared on Monday.
You were an actor, probably best known for his role as Henry Hill in Goodfellas. His new film is The Identical. It's in theaters September 5th. And in The Identical, you play Reese Wade, an evangelist. You never played a preacher before, right?
I have not.
Tell me about
I've killed a few, but never.
What
the music's
attracted you
great.
to it?
I'm just playing the preacher. I got up one night, as we do in our 50s, to do what you got to do. I remembered that I had a script that was left outside, so I went and got it. Went upstairs and I couldn't fall back asleep. And I said, all right, let me read it just see what happens, a couple pages, see if it grabs me. And it just got me hook, line, and sinker. And one of the things that got me is the adoption. I'm adopted. And so to hear it from the father's perspective, which would be my dad, it just really touched me emotional. And when he finally finds out, now my parents told me I was adopted, me, Ray, I think they told me I did a report about it in kindergarten, did a show and tell thing. In this story, they never told the kid because the father who gave the kid up for adoption said never tell him until we're both gone, meaning him and his mother. And then when he finds out, before the father dies, it just sets him on this path of wondering who and what he is.
All right, you tracked down your biological mom about a decade ago. What impact did that have on you?
I once told this story on Letterman and got a call back. I think it just made me realize that she did the best that she could with me. I used to wear being adopted on my sleeve. How could you give up a kid? That sort of thing. And realize when I met her that there were really valid reasons. And then realize that almost 99% of kids that are put up for adoption are always for the betterment of the kid. The household, the situation, the age just dictates that that's the best thing to do for the child.
There was a great book about that called You Were Chosen.
Really?
Written for the adoptive child.
Yeah, mine was You Were Given Up. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah. What's Ashley Judd like to work with?
She was great.
She's a good actress.
Yeah, she was really, really good. We shot it down in Nashville, and she lives in Tennessee, so we were lucky that she was living down there at the time, and she's just great because she brought a lot of the Southern flavor to it, and she's a great actress. So
now, this is the first movie Dustin Marcello ever directed. You've done about 80 films. You've worked with Scorsese. What was it like working with a newbie director?
Well, the one thing they had on me is he's very faith-based. His dad, who's the producer, his dad and his grandfather wrote the music. Yochanan Marcelino and his dad, they were so locked into that world, being that that's who they are, that he had a bigger advantage on me in terms of the religious part of it all. But he also did a lot of videos. He was very open. If I had something to say, he would listen. You know, a lot of us, everybody on the movie had done a lot of movies, and Dustin was just open enough to listen to us in terms of some opinions that we might have. But he also had a very clear vision of what he wanted the movie to be.
Are you a good director's actor?
No, not all the time. It depends if you're a good director. If you're a good director, I take this very, very serious, and I look at it that this stuff, if it's handled right, could last forever. Whether it's you know, careers go up and down, and I've definitely had my up and down points in my career. And I hold on to every part. If the movie might not be, maybe it's more of, let's say, a B-side movie, I approach it just the same. And if you don't know what you're doing or you're not listening, I could be a little edgy about it.
How do you regard, I've always regarded you as a